Joe Schmitz at the University of Pittsburgh. Undersized, not fast. Blows his knee up in college. Has to go to knee surgery. He's 200 pounds. So he goes in for knee surgery. And lo and behold, he meets a guy at the hospital that knows something about weightlifting. In those days, if you lifted weights, you got too stiff, you got muscle bound, you couldn't play. Joe Schmidt, the greatest linebacker to ever play, probably was 25 years ahead of the world on getting yourself physically prepared by weights. He was probably the first guy in pro football that knew what a bench press was. So he had this unbelievable strength. Only one linebacker shut down Jimmy Brown every time they played him. And the coaches, great coaches, would say, "Joe, you got Jimmy Brown." Well, a lot of people said that. But he had the arm strength and the upper body strength that he could make the play. Why he ended up gaining 22 pounds by this workout. And Paul Brown said, "I can't draft Joe Schmidt. He's too small. He's too little. I can't take him." And then they saw him a year later, and what did you do? He gained 22 pounds by lifting weights of good strength. And that was why he was ahead of the National Football League. Strength, power, he could shed the big man. He was not a big man, but when the big tackle came down on him, he showed by strength to dip the shoulder, shed the block, and come upfield and make the play. He made a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage, which was not going on. He would get up in the A gap. He'd get in that center guard gap, which people weren't doing, and he'd come, and then he'd fake, and he wasn't coming. He was coming somewhere else. Things you see every day to day, he was a guy that was doing them, and everybody was saying, "Wow." I think he really respected his defensive coordinator. His defensive coordinator was Don Shula, a guy that had a little success later on. And I think because of that connection, he was always a student and a coach of the game. He coached the players as they were playing. So for him to become the coach, he became the head coach of the Lions, was not a shock to anybody. That's what he was, that's who he is. He was good enough that when they played on the road, there would not be any empty seats. If you would go to a place that wasn't going to sell out, Joe Schmidt could put a butt in every chair at home and away, because the people that watched football then were looking for physical violence. We're looking for toughness. We're looking for somebody that gave you nothing. Well, you're describing the best middle linebacker that ever played. I've had maybe 6 middle linebackers make All-Pro. You judge those as compared to Joe Schmidt. You judge all running backs as compared to Walter Payton. They set the bar for their position. You judge all corners by Night Train Lane, and Joe Schmidt set the bar. And he set the bar on what you do when you're not on the field. When you're not on the field, what are you doing? Are you really getting yourself prepared? Do you have the will to get prepared when you're not on the field? That was Joe Schmidt.